Greetings to all my reflections out there. My next guest is a groundbreaker artificial intelligence artist changing the world with his recreations of traditional Bible stories. His YouTube page was created just a year ago and is well on its way to over 1 million views already. Reflections I give to you, repping the D, Jason Talley.
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
Jason, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, bro. I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I had no idea you were representing Detroit.
Most definitely. I think a lot of people don't know what to expect. Like when to see like who's behind that channel, and like because I do TikTok too. They like to see who's behind it, even though my face is in the logo. Like a lot of people don't realize that.
Tell me about growing up in Detroit.
Well, growing up in Detroit, like Detroit today is a whole lot different than it was. The Detroit today is different than the Detroit I grew up in. Detroit I grew up in, it like looked like Gotham City. Like it's a whole lot nicer now. And especially the downtown parts and stuff like that. I grew up close family. My parents, they're pastors. They started a church in the 90s. So that's partially where I get a lot of my information from. Of course, I'm doing my own studying as well. But yeah, like my parents was real strict. They made sure we prayed and every day, and made sure we was reading a chapter of Proverbs every day and stuff like that. They wanted to make sure that me and my brother had that spiritual foundation. So like it will stick with us when we, become men and stuff like that. So that's the type of background that I came from. My father, like when he was younger, he was in the streets. So he did everything in his power to make sure that me and my brother didn't go down the same route that he went down. So that's, pretty much my upbringing for the most part. Yeah.
Conversations in the mirror is a reflection of people that I see myself in to some degree. I don't believe in ironic. I had no idea, you grew up, in church. I grew up in church as well. Tell me a little bit more about that. I was in church 8 days a week. 8 days a week.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's like, like I said, my parents, they started their church. So like, from day, like automatically me and my brother are day one members, so we're there to like, we're helping clean up. We doing all the extra stuff, like all the extra stuff that need to be done throughout the week. I think we was up there probably like a good 3 or 4 days a week. The Sunday service, and then Saturday you got rehearsals and people cleaning up, and then Bible study and stuff like that. So, and anything extra that need to be done, like, if my parents have to go up there to counsel somebody or something like that, we're tagging along just because, so yeah.
Hey, Jason, growing up, we had this thing called Vacation Bible School, right?
Okay.
And then we had this thing, it was like summer camp. And then we had like, like the church barbecue, we all wore white. We call it Pentecostal Sunday and things of that nature.
Right,
when you were growing up, was there like a denomination, or like, how was that for you?
No, our church was always been non-denomination. So it's more so like we didn't participate in like the more traditional things that other churches did. It was more so like, just read, straight to the Bible and stuff like that.
Yeah. I tell you, growing up as a preacher's kid myself, it wasn't, popular back then. That was the gateway to me being bullied in school, and
Right.
being name called and picked on in the neighborhood because I was the preacher's kid.
Right.
I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and out there in Norview, when they found out, the new house on the block, or the new kid on the block, was a preacher's kid, it just didn't go well. Did you experience that too?
Not necessarily, because like I said, for one, at some point, me and my brother, like my parents homeschooled me and my brother at some point. So we didn't have to go through that. And for two, like a lot of the people in our neighborhood, like I said, my father used to be a street guy when he was younger. And it was well known through the neighborhood. Like, so even though my father is like this pastor, he done completely changed his life. It was a lot of people still scared of him because of how he used to be back in the day. So
Wow.
like we didn't get bullied. We didn't get bullied at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Jason, do you recall that moment your father transitioned to being more positive, to believing in God and changing his life? Do you recall that moment?
No, not necessarily. Pretty much that's something that happened with my parents, like in the early 90s. Like I was probably around 3 years old around that time when that happened. But I remember they used to watch Dr. Fred Price every Sunday and take notes and stuff like that. That was their pastor, and that like even end up being their covering, like when they became pastors. So it
Yeah.
all worked out.
Growing up, Jason, who was your greatest inspiration?
Growing up, my greatest inspiration. That's a good question. I think I think my parents, they made things happen no matter what. Um my parents most definitely, I'll say growing up, it wasn't nobody else was beating my parents growing up, honestly. Like especially my mom. Uh she was always been a caring person. She will help, like she instilled into me and my brother, like if somebody is less fortunate and you have it to give, help them out, so like it became a thing for me and my brother. Like when my cousins come around and they clothes may not be up to par, we giving them like our clothes and stuff like that. It's like we don't want people to be around us, and like we want the goodness that we have to be on the people that's around us as well.
Now that you are an adult, grown man, what's your favorite memory? What's your most fond memory of that one that inspired you? Like, seeing mom around, seeing pops around. What was that like growing up? Like, how did they inspire you the most?
Hmm. I think honestly, um, just more so seeing how determined they were, and just pretty much being examples of what they taught. Like I remember, this wasn't when I was a kid. This was probably I was in my early 20s at this point, and I remember my father was at the gym, and he ended up like pulling a nerve in his back and couldn't really walk.
Wow.
Um, and through all of that, he still like, had people to carry him like to the church, and he still taught people. Like he sat down and taught people through all his pain and stuff like that, because he wanted to be an example for people, like through no matter what you going through, you walk by faith and not by sight. So I think like stuff like that is groundbreaking, like as far as like setting an example. And those are things that stick out to me.
Wow. So, Jason, it sounds as though your parents were really inspirational towards you, growing up as a young man. Tell me, when did you identify your gift in technology?
Well, I mean, even as a kid, like I was always known as the tech guy, right? So like I can remember like my parents buying the first computer in our household, a Windows 98. I'm probably only 10 years old at the time. They set it up, they don't know what they're doing. I go in there, figure it out, got it all set up and stuff like that. I was the type of kid that took my toys apart so I could see how they work and try to put them back together and stuff like that. That's the type of person I've always been. Um, as of recent, like even leaking over into this AI field, it was just more so seeing something online. I'm like, huh, how do that work? And then just going into a rabbit hole just to figure out how to, how to do it,
Yeah.
because it piqued my interest like that.
Yeah. It sounds as though, to me, based on that, a career in technology was always a dream for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. I think growing up, like I fell into a lot of like jobs and stuff like that, just because they were available, and like the bills always got to get paid. I find myself right now. I'm studying to move into like IT and stuff like that right now. So
Jason, what's your earliest memory of AI, man?
my earliest memory of AI, honestly, it will probably have to be because like since I've been doing deep dives and learning how to do it, I would say probably using a smartphone, like because I think the technology that's um embedded in smartphones, like it comes with that stuff already,
Mhm.
and it's just more so massive, like it's more so readily available for the masses now. But I think like that's the first thing that come to my mind.
Jason, tell us how AI Bible Sagas, your well-known YouTube page,
Yeah.
came about.
Then he looked at what he had done, and it was good. God said, "Now we will make humans, and they will be like us. We will let them rule the fish, the birds, and all other living creatures." So God created humans to be like himself. He made men and women. God gave them his blessing and said, "Have a lot of children. Fill the earth with people and bring it under your control. Rule over the fish in the ocean, the birds in the sky, and every animal on the earth. I have provided all kinds of fruit and grain for you to eat, and I have given the green plants as food for everything else that breathes, including animals, both wild and tame, and birds." And so it was. God looked at what he had done. All of it was very good.
It's funny, bro. I I remember this was last summer. I was trying to figure out, like, like I said, I recently started, studying IT and stuff like that. But in the same token, I was more so, I felt like I was at a crossroads, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, I feel like I need to be doing something, but I just don't know what it is. Um, and like it was this one Instagram page that I used to follow, um, called Bible Ethics, I believe it's called. They changed the name since then. I guess they sold the page or whatever, but they used to like tell Bible stories like within like 30 seconds to a minute, and then they'll have like moving pictures and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it just made me, I'm like, how do they do that? So like I just went down a deep rabbit hole, right? I'm like, I want to be able to do that, But when I think I started off with the first AI video I ever done was the Genesis 1:1 video, the creation video, right? So this is the first, like I'm learning as I'm building the plane as I'm flying it at this point.
Mm.
So when I'm done with the video, I done, like, because I already had a background in video editing and graphic design already. That's something I was self-taught, like in my late teenage years, early 20s. So I'm like, I'm creative enough to be able to put this stuff together and find the music, because I used to do Christian rap and I play keyboards and stuff like that. So I'm like creative enough to put all these things together, and like I see the video, the way it come out, and I'm amazed that I'm like, I've really put this together. Like, this the whole creation story from day 1 to day 7. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep going. So uh, I remember like I started with the TikTok page and the YouTube page at the same time. I started with that, with the creation story, and then just kept going. Went to the Adam and Eve story, and I'm like, like I said, I made it. I made the decision in my mind that I'm gonna keep going. And I'm looking like, I wonder when, people are going to catch on to this, because I'm like, I know I'm putting a lot of work into this, but I'm loving what I'm doing, like I'm feeling fulfilled at what I'm doing. So I'm thinking, I'm like, well, maybe people will start noticing by the time we get to Sodom and Gomorrah or David and Goliath or something like that. And instantly, Cain and Abel on TikTok. Cain and Abel went viral like the day that I posted it. And I'm like, I'm looking at the numbers, they're just constantly shooting up. And I think right now it's probably at 1.3 million right now on TikTok.
Wow.
I haven't checked it in a while, but it went crazy. And from then, like a fan base just came, like where like I already had made the decision that I wasn't going to stop and I'm going to keep going. Now there's a fan base there to support my decision. Like, okay, I can't wait till next week. Like, Sunday is the post day where I upload the videos, and now it's like there's people waiting every week for those videos.
Yeah.
So that's how it all got started, and I'm like still to this day amazed at how everything has transpired up to this point.
Jason, you made a decision that regardless of what the outcome was, you were going to keep going.
Yeah.
I hear you say that you have to sometimes build the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
That is so true in entrepreneurship. It
Yeah.
is so true. For those of us who are looking and who are aspiring to do just what you did, tell us about that statement. Build the plane while you're flying it. No matter what, I decide I'm going to keep going. That is so important. Elaborate on that for us, if you may.
Yeah. And this is something I talk to my brother about all the time, because I think what it is that you got to find something that you're passionate about, get obsessed with it, and then stay consistent with it. I think those are the top three things. If you get passion, obsession, and consistency, you will not lose. Because if you're passionate about, like, if there is something that you're passionate about it and you are obsessed with it, that means you're gonna do everything that you can in your power to learn about it, to make it better, to perfect it, to like polish it, right? And then from there, all you need is consistency. I think that's the simple formula, honestly.
Jason, with your success, you're reaching millions of people all over this world, right? And they are engaging with your content. Year to date, what has been one of the most heartfelt comments or moments of engagement that you've received?
Oh, it's so many. It's like, I remember at some point, like towards the end of the year, and I'm like, I want to say I was telling Jacob's story at this time. So I'm like, I'm almost like, I'm almost at Joseph. And I'm like, I think I need to take a break, because I'm like, since the Genesis 1-in-1 video, I didn't take a break. I just was on it. So I'm like, I think I need to take a break this week, and just come back fresh next week. And I seen somebody's comment like, oh my God, this just made my week. I'm so looking forward to Sunday. And that one comment was like, okay, I need to get straight to it, because like people are waiting, it's, I think with the recent, because I don't know if like, I don't know how long you've been following the channel, but like, like I said, I started with Genesis 1-in-1 at first, and we'll do like a chapter or two, or just depending on how the story is, right? And then I'll break it down into a video. And when I got finished with the whole book of Genesis, I put it all together, made the Genesis movie, right? Where somebody can sit there and just watch the whole book of Genesis in an hour and a half, right? And I think I seen a comment where somebody said that they was in the hospital, and pretty much they watched that, they was watching it while they was in the hospital or something like that. And like, I'm like, it's stuff like that like, I love to hear stuff like that,
Man, listen. So To answer your question, I got hit to your YouTube channel, AI Bible Sagas, I want to say a month ago, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the book of Genesis is my favorite book. It's my favorite book. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I think it's just
It's so much in there. It's so much in there.
man, like it was already my favorite book.
Right.
And then when I watched your content, your animation, it brought it to life.
Right.
Like, so I watched I couldn't watch it all in one setting. So I watched it like I was watching a movie.
Right.
Like, it was incredible. And all the characters were brought to life and all the moments that I could imagine, I saw them almost in real time. It was magical, it was beautiful.
Right.
And then it was like some of the moments in the Bible that we overlook and like we overread. Because here's the thing, like, the Bible is the truth and is unedited and is unfiltered,
Right.
and so there are moments in the Bible or in the book of Genesis, I was like, that really happened? Like that happened that way? And then you go to I go to my Bible, I'm like, it really did happen that way. I'm like, oh man, like, so just to see it.
And that's another thing, bro. That's another thing that I wanted, because like I said, I was raised in the church, right? And like when you raised in the church, you go to children's church, right? So by the time you graduate from children's church, it's rare if you revisit those stories, right? Because the stories is easy to teach children, right? So like my thing was, I wanted to tell the stories exactly how they happened in the Bible in the most adult way possible, right? So like I'm like I'm like, I want AI Bible Sagas to be like Power on Stars at this point. So like I want it to be exactly on a set. Like if somebody came and wanted to turn this into a TV show, it would have to go on Stars or HBO at this point. So like I want it, like, because when you talking about certain stories that happen in the Bible, it's like, and that's one of the comments that like I love to see people like, this really happened, like Sodom and Gomorrah stories and the stuff that happened with Noah and stuff like that. I love it, man. I love it.
It's amazing. Jason, growing up in church, being so connected to church because you grew up in church through your family. I recall going through the motions of church when I was a child and in my teenage years. But I can recall the moment like it was yesterday when I developed a personal relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
When did you find your personal relationship with God?
Man, I would say I found my personal relationship with God. Like it's different. Like this is a conversation I have with my brother as well. Like it's different having a relationship with God vicariously through somebody else. And we as PKs, a lot of people that's the type of relationship with God they have. They have a relationship with God vicariously through their parents or vicariously of whoever the person that go to church in the family every week. They say, hey, say a prayer for me while you're there or something like that, right? I remember I had got married in my early 20s, end up getting divorced. And I remember like just that period of my life, like I would say probably I faced some of the darkest times in my life, and I can say like I know that my relationship with God wasn't where it needed to be. And it's weird, it's so weird because like I said, I've always been a hardcore music person. I love to listen to hip hop. I love like lyrics and stuff like that. And it's weird, like what God will do to reach you, right? It's it's weird, like the channel, like you never know, right? I remember listening to a Rick Ross album, right? And at this time, like I like my relationship with my parents was a little rocky too. We wasn't seeing eye to eye on a lot of things. We, like, and I remember listening to a Rick Ross song. I think it's called Valley of Death, or on one. I forget what album is on. And he mentioned a scripture in one of his verses, like Psalms 27. And like, because I liked the song so much and I would listen to it so much, it made me open my Bible. Like, what do Psalms 27 say?
Wow. Wow.
And I read it as, like, the Lord is my light and my salvation, who shall I fear? It's a chapter that's only 14 verses long, but I felt like it really spoke directly to my situation, right? Like, where it's a time in David's life where he's pretty much on a run from Saul trying to kill him and stuff like that. And like, even in that verse, it's like, even if my mother and father forsake me, you will be there in the midst. Like, that touched me.
Wow.
That touched me. So like, and from that day forth, like, I started back praying every day and like building my relationship with God for myself. And that's
Yeah.
I remember vividly. That was my coming to Jesus moment, as some people would say. But that's when I can recall building my relationship with God for myself. And like, because like, it's different, like, because we had the foundation there from my parents being there. The foundation was inside of me, right? But as a man, when you grow up, you have to make that decision for yourself as well.
Yes.
And like, just knowing, like, I know a lot of pastor kids that I'm friends with or, familiar with, is some of them never get to that point because of maybe some of the things that they seen. And, some of the things they seen, they was like, oh, church, they don't like how church people treated them. The church people are hypocrites. But having that relationship with God for yourself is extremely important.
Jason, how important is it for men to have that personal relationship with God established, deep in their heart, deeply rooted, before we venture out into things like marriage or relationships or career choices? How important is that?
It's extremely important because the way God set up structure, like, we have to answer to God, right? Before we can, he placed us as men to be the head over the household, right? Where, our wife and our children will answer to us, but we have to answer to him, right? And so, like, without him being there as the foundation in your life, like, pretty much you were like a rebel on the loose, like, you need that foundation, you need that structure. It's more so of a structure thing, a hierarchy, it's a structure thing. Like, it's extremely important.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend the other day and I was like, listen, if God can use a burning bush, if God said that he'll allow the rocks to cry out, he can definitely use a Rick Ross record to speak to
Most
you.
definitely.
You know what I'm saying? God is God, and he's going to speak to through the sound of the wind. Like, he will speak to you through a podcast. Like, whatever God decides to use to speak to you, he will. And your content has the power, and it's filled with power to speak to individuals like myself and other people all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm coming out of a season of hardship, and being able to tap into strong content like yours is a necessity. So I'm so grateful and thankful. You took the word and the vision, and you went forward with it. Absolutely. Jason, tell me, have you been criticized for making your characters look like us?
Oh boy. Oh boy. So I think like I said, when I first started, the first couple of videos, you didn't really see a lot of people, right? So, Genesis, you just, the sun, the earth, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You have people arguing if the earth is flat or if it's round. That's cool, whatever. When you get to the Adam and Eve videos and Cain and Abel, and they're just straight black, in the comments, why are they black? What is going on here?
Oh,
I
wow.
swear, but it's funny. Like I knew that I knew what was gonna come with it. Like because I wanted to bring the vision. Like because a lot of these stories been told so many times. With we know what those people look like in those other stories, right?
Yeah,
And I think for a lot of people, that's what draw them. Like, wait, these people look like us. And then I think for me, when you watch, like, so you say you watch the whole book of Genesis, right? So watching the whole book of Genesis in the color that is in, right, it makes some of the stories click a little better to me.
absolutely.
It's like
Absolutely.
that makes more sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I most definitely been criticized. Like I remember I've been called a false prophet, like on YouTube when it were like when the Noah stories, like why they black or what color is Jesus or whatever. It's like, they go super religious, right? So it's like nobody even said anything about anybody's color. It's just that you look at the video, see that everybody's black, but now it's an issue because like we don't even know if they was black. I'm like, okay, so if we don't know if they was black, why are we arguing here? Like, what's going on? But yeah, man, I've been criticized a lot, but I don't think not as much these days because I think the core audience is there. Like, I don't really see those type of criticisms that much these days. But
Yeah.
when I first started, I'm most definitely.
Yeah. If we are going to talk about the area in which most of the Bible is written from and inspired from, they are people of color.
Right. Most definitely. And
Yeah,
like they may not have been like me, my color or your color, but they most definitely was people of color.
absolutely. Jason, what's your favorite book in the Bible?
My favorite book in the Bible, I think my personal favorite book in the Bible has always been Proverbs because I think because like I said earlier, my parents always had me and my brother to read a chapter of Proverbs every day.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I'm loving the book of Genesis too. Like the book of Genesis is so vast. It's so many characters. It's so many stories. I love the book of Genesis.
Listen, the book of Genesis is my favorite book. During one of my hard seasons, I wanted to change my prayer life.
Mhm.
And I wanted to change it in a way that was a complete paradigm, a complete paradigm shift. And one of the things I asked God was, all right, I know you made me in the image of you, so I am a reflection of who you are.
Right.
If you could just tell me what language you spoke when you created the world, when you said, let there be light, because English wasn't created, right?
Exactly.
So if you can just tell me what language you spoke, if you can show me what language you spoke, I got it.
Mhm.
Now, for me, God gave me positive affirmations and words of affirmations.
Mhm.
God said, let the weak say, I am strong,
Sure.
and let the
Yeah.
poor say, I am rich.
Yes.
How do you see that?
Oh, most definitely. Like I'm real big on death and life being in the power of the tongue. And that also plays into the translations that I use in my videos as well, right? So I have gotten criticism for not using the King James version of the Bible, right? But I don't think a lot of people understand that the King James version is not the first version of the Bible,
Correct.
right? So if you translate, like the original Bible, Jesus Jesus and the disciples were not talking like Shakespeare.
Correct.
And that's they were not talking like that, right? So I'm like, if they wasn't talking like that, we might as well bring it to how we talk so we can understand it even more, right? So I use three translations when I'm doing my videos. I use the contemporary English version, came out in 97. That's probably my favorite version because it's like straight to the point. The easy to read version, it came out in 2018, I think. and the Voice translation came out in 2012, I want to say. Now, the Voice translation, I like to reference the Voice translation because the Voice translation is translated directly from Hebrew and Greek. And if there are some things that's not understood, it'll put a special note as to why this don't make sense, but they'll clear it up. And I love that. Like I feel like a lot of people will go a lot farther in a Bible reading if they would, like read these type of translations. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't read the King James, but like I understand that like even King James took some stuff out the Bible and changed some things too. I learned that on TikTok. I'm like, wow, okay. But to go back to your question, most definitely I'm very firm on speaking positive, because like we have to speak on ourselves how God would speak about us. Like we are children of God. We have to speak life into our situations and everything that concerns us.
Yeah. Jason, when you're studying the book of Proverbs, how does it make you feel?
I feel smart. I feel enlightened. Like I love the book of Proverbs. It's so many gems in there to like pick up. There's so many gems like about picking friends, picking women. It's so much, right? So it's funny, like, because I've been solely focused on the Old Testament ever since I've been doing AI Bible Sagas, just Genesis, like reading reading chapters in all three translations, so I can like pretty much map out how I want to tell the stories in the videos, right? Because my thing is, I don't want, like I said, some people have criticized like, oh, it's not certain words was missing and stuff like that. But I'm like, I'm not trying to do it word for word. I'm trying to tell the story where people understand exactly what happened and comprehend it, right? I'm like, if you want to hear it word for word, you can pick up a Bible and read it yourself. Like, feel free. But I think like it's funny. Like I was just thinking, I just thought this a couple of days ago. Like, with the whole war of the races on social media with podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like listening to some, talking heads and stuff, like talk about what they're looking for in men. And then it just clicked. I'm like, these women not Proverbs 31 women. like, bro, like, like,
yeah,
these are the opposite of what Proverbs 31 is speaking of. I'm like, okay, all right. I need, but
the complete opposite, right? Like the foundation has to be there.
Yeah.
The foundation has to be there. Yeah. Jason, how do you want people to feel when they watch your content?
I want them to feel like they learn something new. If like especially people that have they pick up the Bible, that tried to read it but just couldn't like stick with it. Like I want people to like feel enlightened, right? Because like just think of it like this, right? Because I was thinking about like doing t-shirts for the book of Genesis. Like if you sit there for a whole hour and a half, you have completed the whole book of Genesis. That's an accomplishment if you think about it, right? So I wanted to make t-shirts that said I've finished the whole book of Genesis,
Wow.
So like that's the type of feelings I want to, like I want people to feel empowered, and informed as well.
Yeah. Do you feel as though God is happy with your work?
Most definitely. I most definitely do, because like I said, right before I started doing AI Bible Sagas, like that's something I was praying. I've even had someone pray with me that God's plan, be fulfilled, like whatever he want me to do. Like I pray that whatever he want me to do, I do it in a way that's pleasing to him, that serves the people that I'm here to serve.
Yeah.
And I know he's happy, because just from the responses that I get, for the people that say that like it is drawing them closer to God and is making them build a relationship with God just from watching these videos, like that, it got, you know, it's a fulfilling feeling in me. Like I
Yeah.
feel like God is pleased.
Jason, at this time, what I want to do is I want to play a game. I'm going to give you a word, and I would like you to define or give me your definition of the word using one word.
Okay.
The very first word I'm going to throw out there is define the name Jason Talley.
Jason Talley. Man, I'm just me, man. I just in one word, I will say, I would say persistent, resilient. Yeah, resilient.
Resilient.
Yeah.
You know, resilience is marketed and it's highly fashionable, but
Yeah.
it is not easy.
It's not. It's not.
Gotta have tough skin to be resilient.
Most definitely.
Give me your one word definition of artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. I'll say the future is so much that you can do. Like I think that's another reason why I excel at what I do, because like, you know, being a child reading these stories or listening to these stories, I just imagine like what it will be like to make a big Hollywood style movie with, you know, Black people and stuff like that. So with AI is giving me the resources to do the things that I've always thought in my mind.
Yeah. How would you define passion?
Passion. Passion. It's love. I'll say love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a love for what you do. You got to be passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly, in one word, define God.
God is everything. He's everything. He's everything you need him to be. That's what I've come to know him as, to be everything I need him to be. So
Jason, you got AI Bible Sagas rocking and rolling. Is amazing to see. I see it growing on TikTok. I see it growing on YouTube. What do you have next?
Honestly, I'm just focusing on this right now. I want to branch off and like maybe make like graphic novels, like using the same images that's used in the videos. I think that's going to be my next move. But like right now, just finishing the book of Exodus and getting the people the book of Exodus movie for the people that's impatient. For the so the people that's impatient that, you know, don't like the parts. But
yeah,
you know, it's a marathon, you know.
Tell us, where can we find you?
Well, AI Bible Sagas on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. My personal Instagram is, what is it? I think I am Jason. It's God Mode Jason on Instagram. That's my personal Instagram. That's everything I got.
Hey, Jason, now unto him who's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ever imagine. I see this changing the world.
Yes.
Like, I see you going into places you never imagined, you know, you would be going into, and sitting down and having conversations and meetings with execs that you never imagined that you would be having those meetings with. I personally want to thank you for this creation. It has really given me the opportunity to see something I grew up hearing about.
Right.
And you've given a new vision to it, a new sight to it, and it's so refreshing. So thank you so very much. Please keep up the great works.
Thank you.
Please continue to be resilient. And also, thank you for this time with Conversations in the Mirror.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.